The first time Noah Miller saw the name, it wasn't on a tombstone. It was on a maintenance log. He was in the basement of the building at 3:17 a.m., standing under a strip of flickering fluorescent lights, holding a clipboard that still smelled faintly of bleach. The old apartment complex had been renovated twice in the last decade, but the basement remained the same. Raw concrete, exposed pipes, damp air that carried rust and mildew like a permanent weather system. Noah wasn't supposed to be there. He worked nights at a third-party security company. Most shifts were routine. Walk the halls, check the doors, log anything that looked broken. The building manager, a man named Carter Hayes, liked having someone visible in the lobby to keep the tenants calm. But the alarms had been strange lately. Not loud alarms, not emergency alarms, small ones. A door sensor tripping for half a second, then resetting. A motion detector firing in the stairwell, no footage to match it. The kind of glitches every old building collected, except these glitches were starting to feel personal. Noah was flipping through the building's maintenance records because Carter had asked him to make sure no one is messing with the basement access. Carter said it like it was a nuisance, like it was kids. The logbook was thick, the paper swollen at the edges from humidity. Noah didn't know why he kept reading when his eyes caught the name. Caleb Hart, Unit B12, key revoked. The handwriting was old, not Carter's, not anyone Noah recognized. He read the line twice, then looked down at the basement directory taped to the wall beside the electrical room. There was no B12. The building's B wing ended at B11. Noah checked the directory again, tracing his finger down the list, feeling slightly foolish, as if the numbers might change if he stared long enough. They didn't. He turned back to the logbook. Below the line about the key revocation, someone had written a date. It was smudged, but still readable. 0914, incident. No description, just that single word. Noah's stomach tightened in a way that didn't match how harmless the entry looked. It was the kind of tightening you got when you realized you'd missed something obvious, something everyone else had known about and never explained to you. He flipped back through earlier pages, searching for the same name. Nothing. He flipped forward. Nothing. One mention, one date, one word. Noah closed the logbook and leaned the clipboard against the wall. The fluorescent light above him buzzed louder as if it was aware of his attention. He told himself this was normal. Old buildings had missing numbers sometimes. Units got combined, renamed, removed from directories. People forgot to update paperwork. Not everything had a story, but the name stuck to him. Caleb Hart. It sounded familiar in a way Noah couldn't place. He left the basement and returned to the lobby, but the air upstairs didn't feel lighter. The building's silence seemed arranged, like something had decided where sound was allowed to travel and where it wasn't. At 4:05 a.m., the motion detector in the B-wing stairwell tripped again. Noah watched the security monitor. The camera feed showed an empty stairwell. Clean steps, a dull beige wall, a handrail with chipped paint. Nothing moved, no shadow crossed, no change in light, but the motion detector kept blinking on the panel. Noah waited for it to reset. It didn't. He grabbed his flashlight and keys and headed down the BOF corridor toward the B-wing. The hallway lights were on timers. At night they dimmed, leaving the corridor in a half-lit state that made every doorway look like it held deeper darkness behind it. Noah walked slowly, listening to his own footsteps. When he reached the stairwell door, he paused. He wasn't afraid of the stairwell itself. He had walked it dozens of times. He was afraid of the idea that something could be there without registering on camera. The door opened with a soft hiss of air pressure. Inside, the stairwell smelled faintly of cold metal. Noah shone his flashlight down the steps. Empty. He shone it up. Empty. He took one step inside anyway. His radio crackled softly at his shoulder, a burst of static that made him flinch. "Central, this is Miller," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "B-wing stairwell alarm keeps tripping. I'm checking it now." No response. He tapped the radio. Static. Noah swallowed, suddenly aware of how deep the building's quiet went. The stairwell felt like a separate world, sealed off, uninterested in the lobby's faint hum. He descended one flight, then another. The motion panel in his mind didn't make sense. The sensor was at the mid-level landing. It should have stopped by now if there was nothing moving. But the pressure in Noah's chest grew heavier with each step. not panic, something else. A steady compression, like someone slowly pressing a hand against the center of his ribs. Noah stopped. He held his breath. The pressure remained. He took a shallow breath. The pressure stayed as if it didn't care whether he inhaled or not. He'd felt this before once, years ago, when he was a kid and had woken up from a nightmare and been certain someone was in his bedroom. That same certainty, that same cold logic. You are not alone. He forced himself to keep moving. At the landing, his flashlight beam swept over the walls, the corners, the floor. Nothing. But then he saw it. A faint line on the concrete wall, like a mark left by something dragged, then scrubbed away. Noah stepped closer. It wasn't random. It was the outline of letters that had been painted over. He angled the flashlight. The paint was newer than the wall. The texture didn't match the surrounding surface. Someone had covered something up. Noah's mouth went dry. He raised his hand and ran his fingers over the paint. It was smoother than the wall beneath it, like a scar that hadn't fully blended back into skin. The pressure in his chest tightened, and in his mind, not as a voice, not as a whisper, an image formed. A person standing at this landing, not facing him, facing the wall, as if they were waiting to be acknowledged. Noah jerked his hand back. His flashlight flickered once, then steadied. He stepped away from the wall, breathing faster now. It was nothing, he told himself. Paint, renovation, old signage, but his mind kept forming the shape of the letters beneath the paint. It wasn't imagination exactly. It felt like memory. He tried to speak the name again. Caleb Hart, Noah said softly. The stairwell light above him buzzed, then dimmed for half a second. The pressure in his chest loosened slightly. Noah froze. The relief was subtle, but it was real. Like a knot had been eased. His breathing slowed. His thoughts sharpened. He understood, suddenly and instinctively, that the building had responded, not to his presence, to the name. Noah backed toward the stairs, his flashlight beam shaking slightly. His radio crackled again. This time it wasn't static. It was a voice, faint and distorted. Miller, you copy? Noah grabbed the radio. Central, yes, he said quickly. Yes, I copy. Another pause. Then, you okay? We got a weird ping. Like your signal dropped for a minute. Noah looked at the painted-over wall again. Yeah, he lied. Probably interference in the stairwell. He climbed back up, step by step, feeling the pressure return as he moved away from the landing, as if the building wanted him to stay close to the painted-over name. Back in the lobby, Noah set his flashlight on the desk and opened his phone. He searched the building's address with the name Caleb Hart. Nothing. He searched just the name. Too many results. He narrowed it down with the city. Still nothing useful. Then on an old cached rental listing from years ago, he found a single reference, not in the listing text, in the comments. Someone had written, "Avoid B12. That unit shouldn't exist. It's where the accident happened." Noah stared at the words until they blurred. Accident. The logbook had said incident. The building directory said there was no such unit, and yet a stranger on the internet had warned about it like it was common knowledge. Noah's thumb hovered over the screen. He didn't know what he was looking for anymore. He only knew that saying the name had changed something in his body. It had made the pressure loosen. It had made the air feel momentarily bearable. That relief felt dangerous, because it suggested a bargain he hadn't agreed to yet. Noah locked his phone, leaned back in his chair, and listened to the building's silence. Somewhere in the B-wing, a motion sensor blinked steadily, as if something was still moving, as if something was still waiting. And Noah realized, with a slow sinking certainty, that he hadn't discovered a forgotten name. He had awakened it. Noah didn't write an incident report. That alone should have told him how far he'd already crossed. At the end of every shift, he was required to log anomalies, faulty sensors, unexplained alarms, equipment malfunctions. He had filled out dozens of them since taking the job. It was muscle memory. But when his shift ended at 6 a.m., Noah shut down the monitors, returned the keys, and walked out without opening the report system. He told himself he'd do it later. Later never came. The daylight outside felt wrong. Too bright, too clean. The sky was the kind of blue that suggested a normal day, the kind of day where names didn't disappear from records and buildings didn't respond to being addressed. Noah drove home with the radio off. He kept replaying the moment in the stairwell, not the painted wall, not the image in his head, but the feeling. The way the pressure in his chest had eased when he said the name out loud. Relief should not have felt earned. That was what unsettled him most. He slept badly, not because of nightmares, because he kept waking up with the sense that he was being measured, not watched, measured, like something was checking whether he still remembered. When Noah woke for good in the early afternoon, his phone was buzzing on the nightstand. 3 missed calls, all from Carter Hayes. Noah sat up slowly and answered on the 4th ring. "Hey," he said, "where's the report?" Carter asked, no greeting, no concern. "The B-Wing sensor logged another hit after you left." Noah hesitated. "I didn't file one." Silence on the line. Then Carter exhaled sharply. "Why not?" "I checked it. Nothing there." "That's not how this works," Carter said. "If the panel flags it, we log it, even if it's nothing." Noah swallowed. "It's probably interference, old wiring." Another pause. Carter's voice lowered. "You didn't go digging around again, did you?" The question landed heavier than it should have. Noah pictured the logbook, the painted-over wall, the name. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I mean the basement," Carter said. "I told you to keep an eye on access points, not inventory ghosts." Noah felt the pressure return, faint but unmistakable. He pressed his free hand against his chest. "I was just checking the logs," he said. "Don't," Carter replied immediately. The word came out too fast. Then Carter cleared his throat. "Look, Miller, this building's old. A lot of stuff doesn't line up anymore. Best thing you can do is your job and leave the rest alone." "Was there an accident?" Noah asked before he could stop himself. The line went dead. Noah stared at his phone. Carter hadn't hung up. He'd disconnected. That night, Noah returned to the building early, not because he was scheduled, because the thought of not being there made the pressure worse. He signed in, took his keys, and sat at the desk, staring at the monitors. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. At 8:42 p.m., the B-Wing motion sensor tripped. Noah didn't check the camera right away. He waited. The pressure in his chest increased slightly, like a reminder. He whispered the name again. Caleb Hart. The pressure eased. The sensor stopped blinking. Noah's hands shook. He hadn't meant to do that. He checked the camera feed. The stairwell was empty. He leaned back in his chair, breathing slowly, trying to rationalize what had just happened. Correlation wasn't causation. Sensors glitched. Names didn't control buildings. And yet, at 9:10 p.m., the sensor tripped again. Noah said nothing. The pressure built, not sharply, patiently. He waited 10 seconds. Then quietly, almost experimentally, he said the name. The pressure faded. The sensor reset. Noah sat there for a long time afterward, staring at nothing. By midnight, he understood the pattern. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't communication. It was completion. Something unfinished reacted to being acknowledged, and it calmed when it was. The relief came with clarity. That scared him more than fear ever could. At 12:37 a.m., Noah did something he hadn't planned to do. He searched internal records, not the buildings, the cities. The security company had limited access, but enough to pull old incident summaries tied to addresses. Noah filtered by the building, then scrolled back years. Most entries were dull. Noise complaints, broken locks, water leaks. Then he found it. An entry marked unconfirmed, closed, no name, just a timestamp and a location. Sublevel B, stairwell landing. Cause, fall from height. Notes. Witness statements inconsistent, no further action required. Noah stared at the screen. Fall from height didn't make sense in a stairwell, unless someone had been pushed. The pressure tightened slightly, as if in agreement. Noah's throat went dry. He whispered, "What happened to you?" The pressure did not respond. That felt important. Names worked, questions did not. Noah printed the report and folded it into his pocket. He went to the B-Wing. The hallway felt narrower than before. The stairwell door opened with the same hiss. Inside, the air was colder. Noah descended slowly, each step echoing too clearly. At the landing, the painted-over wall waited. He raised his flashlight and swept it across the surface. This time, the outline beneath the paint was clearer. The letters had been large, not graffiti. A label. Noah swallowed. "Unit B-12, he said. The pressure surged, then eased. The building seemed to settle around him, like a breath being released. The wall did not change, but Noah did. Images pressed against his thoughts. Not visions, not memories, but impressions. Fragments of context that slotted into place without emotion. A temporary unit created during renovations. A shortcut taken. A stairwell repurposed. a space that existed just long enough for something to go wrong, and a man who had been there when he shouldn't have been. Caleb Hart hadn't lived in B12. He had died there. The unit had never been meant to remain, so it hadn't. Noah backed away, his pulse pounding. The pressure receded again, leaving behind a faint afterglow of calm. He understood now why the name had been buried, why the unit had been erased, why no one wanted to explain the inconsistency, because the death didn't fit. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't useful, it was an error, and errors demanded correction. At 2:04 a.m., the pressure returned more strongly than before. Noah felt it while he was back at the desk, scrolling aimlessly on his phone, trying not to think. This time, the relief did not come when he said the name. The pressure remained. It grew heavier, more focused. Noah's breathing quickened. "What do you want?" he asked, barely above a whisper. The answer didn't come as words. It came as direction. His gaze drifted to the monitor wall. One camera feed had changed, not the stairwell. The hallway outside Unit B7. Noah zoomed in. The door was closed. The hall was empty. But the pressure in his chest intensified, sharp now, insistent. This wasn't about remembrance anymore. This was about continuation. Noah stood slowly. "Someone else," he said, the realization hitting him all at once. "Someone has to." The pressure eased, just enough. Noah's stomach dropped. The thing born from Caleb Hart's unfinished death wasn't satisfied with being known. Knowing was only the first step. The building didn't want balance. It wanted replacement. Noah grabbed his flashlight and keys, his hands trembling. As he stepped into the hallway, he understood the rule he hadn't wanted to see. Caleb Hart had died when he wasn't supposed to, and now something existed that would not allow that mistake to remain singular. Somewhere in the building, a door waited, and Noah realized with sickening clarity that the relief he'd felt was not a reward. It was an invitation. Noah stopped in the middle of the hallway. The pressure in his chest wasn't pain. It wasn't panic. It was closer to gravity, an insistence that pulled his attention forward toward Unit B7 with the same quiet certainty that made objects fall when released. He didn't move. For a long moment, the building waited with him. The hallway lights hummed softly. Somewhere above, a pipe knocked once, then settled. Everything felt arranged, like the pause before a decision was finalized. "No," Noah said under his breath. The pressure did not increase. That was new. It didn't argue. It didn't punish. It simply remained. Noah took a step backward. The pressure followed. Not closer, not farther, aligned. He turned and walked back to the security desk, his movements stiff, controlled. His heart was beating fast, but his thoughts felt disturbingly clear. He sat down, placed the flashlight carefully on the desk, and folded his hands in front of him. "This isn't happening," he said quietly. The words felt thin. He stared at the monitor showing the hallway outside Unit B7. The camera angle was slightly tilted, just enough to make the doorframe look crooked if you stared too long. The door remained closed. Noah checked the tenant roster. Unit B7 was occupied. A man in his early 40s, single, worked irregular hours. No complaints logged against him, no incidents, ordinary. Noah exhaled slowly. "Wrong unit," he said more firmly this time. "You're wrong." The pressure shifted, not heavier, sharper. His chest tightened just enough to make breathing uncomfortable. Noah understood then. This wasn't selection, it was opportunity. He left the desk again. This time he didn't hesitate. The hallway seemed longer now. The distance between doorways stretched just beyond what Noah remembered. His footsteps sounded too loud, then too quiet, like the acoustics couldn't decide what he was allowed to hear. When he reached Unit B7, he stopped directly in front of the door. Up close, it looked like every other door in the building. Beige paint, minor scuffs, a number plate screwed in slightly crooked. Nothing marked it as special. The pressure pressed inward, steady and patient. Noah raised his hand to knock. He stopped himself. He wasn't being forced. That was the worst part. He could turn around, walk away, go back to the desk and file a report. Call Carter, call the police, pretend none of this was real. The pressure did not spike at the thought. It did not care. Noah lowered his hand. "I won't," he said. The pressure eased slightly. Relief brushed against him, just enough to be noticed. Noah froze. The relief wasn't complete. It felt provisional, as if the thing inside the building was acknowledging a partial effort, not a conclusion. He stepped away from the door. With each step back, the relief diminished. By the time he reached the stairwell entrance, the pressure had returned to its original weight. Not punishing, expectant. Noah leaned against the wall and slid down until he was sitting on the cold tile floor. He pressed his palms into his eyes. "This isn't about justice," he whispered. "You don't even know him." The pressure didn't respond. Noah laughed once, a dry, broken sound. "You don't care who it is," he said. "You just need someone." The pressure loosened, just a little. The implications settled into him slowly, like sediment sinking in still water. Caleb Hart hadn't been special. His death hadn't been chosen. It had been convenient, an error that had been easier to erase than explain. Noah stood and returned to the desk. He pulled up archived footage, not from last night, from years ago. The security company had migrated systems twice, but fragments remained, low-resolution clips tied to timestamps and access logs. Noah filtered by date, September 14th. The year matched the logbook entry. Most of the footage was corrupted or missing, but one clip loaded. The camera angle was wrong, tilted downward, catching more wall than floor. The image stuttered, frames dropping in uneven bursts. Noah leaned closer. At first, he thought the stairwell was empty. Then he noticed movement, a figure at the edge of the frame, only partially visible. A man standing at the landing, facing the wall, not pacing, not struggling, waiting. The timestamp jumped, the next frame showed nothing, no fall, just empty stairs. Noah's stomach turned. He scrubbed back and replayed the clip. The man never turned around. He never looked toward the camera. He didn't look afraid. He looked resigned. The pressure in Noah's chest surged, not violently, but with density. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. "This is what you are," Noah said. "You're what happens when nobody finishes the story." The pressure eased. Agreement. Noah sat back. The building didn't need someone punished. It needed the process completed. Caleb Hart had been removed from the world without resolution. No explanation. No witness who mattered. No acknowledgement beyond a single smudged word in a logbook. The building had carried that absence. Now something else had grown to hold it. And that thing didn't understand morality. It understood continuity. At 3:11 a.m., Noah's radio crackled. "Miller," Carter's voice said. "You there?" Noah picked it up slowly. "Yeah. We've got a noise complaint from B7, Carter said. "Tenant says someone's been standing outside his door." Noah's throat tightened. "For how long?" he asked. "A while," Carter replied. "He didn't check the time, says he thought it was maintenance at first." The pressure in Noah's chest sharpened into something almost painful. Carter continued, "You near that wing?" Noah looked at the monitor. The hallway outside Unit B7 was empty. "I can check it," Noah said. He stood. This time the pressure shifted into alignment, like something clicking into place. Noah walked the hallway again. The lights flickered as he passed beneath them, one by one, like a countdown he hadn't agreed to. At Unit B7 he stopped. The door was slightly ajar. Noah raised his flashlight. Inside, the apartment was dim, lit only by the glow of a television screen somewhere deeper in the room. "Hello?" Noah said. No answer. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a soft, final sound. The pressure in his chest vanished completely. Relief flooded him so suddenly his knees nearly buckled. The air felt lighter, his thoughts clearer. His body relaxed in a way it hadn't in days. Noah realized in that moment that this was what the thing had been offering all along. Not fear, relief, the absence of weight. The television murmured in the living room, a low, steady noise. Noah moved forward. On the coffee table sat a stack of unopened mail. On the couch, a blanket lay folded, untouched. No sign of struggle, no sign of urgency, just a life paused mid-evening. Noah reached the doorway to the living room and stopped. The man from the tenant roster sat on the couch, facing the television. He hadn't turned around. He was watching static. The pressure did not return. But something else did, understanding. Noah spoke softly. "You're not the first," he said, "and you won't be the last." The man did not respond. The static hissed gently, and Noah understood the final rule, the one that hadn't needed explanation. The thing born from Caleb Hart's death didn't kill. It replaced. And now that Noah was inside the apartment, with the door closed behind him, the building had begun the process again. Not by force, by making sure someone else was standing where they weren't supposed to be. Noah didn't remember sitting down. One moment he was standing in the doorway, the television's static whispering into the room. The next, he was in the armchair opposite the couch, his hands resting neatly on his knees as if he'd been placed there. Across from him, the man remained still. His posture was relaxed, not asleep, not tense, just present. The static filled the silence between them. Noah waited for the pressure to return. It didn't. The absence was unsettling. He had grown used to the weight, the guidance. Without it, the room felt hollow, like a stage after the lights went out. "Do you know what's happening?" Noah asked. The man didn't turn. The television flickered once, briefly resolving into a blurred image of a hallway, Noah's hallway, before dissolving back into snow. Noah's breath caught. "That's not possible," he said. But the image had been clear enough. The building wasn't just responding anymore. It was remembering. Noah stood, slowly. His movements felt precise, rehearsed, like he was following choreography he hadn't learned consciously. He circled the room. Everything about the apartment spoke of interruption rather than violence. A mug on the kitchen counter, tea gone cold, shoes neatly lined by the door, a jacket draped over the back of a chair. Noah paused near the hallway leading to the bedroom. A faint sound drifted from within, breathing, shallow, uneven. He turned back to the man on the couch. "Someone else is here," Noah said. The man's head tilted slightly, not toward Noah, toward the bedroom. Noah felt a prickle along his arms. "You're not alone," he told the man, though he wasn't sure why. "This isn't just happening to you." The man finally spoke. "Is it finished?" he asked. His voice was calm, too calm. Noah swallowed. "No." The man nodded once, accepting the answer without emotion. Noah backed away, his gaze fixed on the man as if turning his back would complete something irreversible. When he reached the hallway, he stopped. The breathing from the bedroom grew louder, not panicked, measured, as if someone was timing it. Noah stepped forward. The bedroom door was half open. Inside, the lights were off, but moonlight filtered through the blinds, casting thin lines across the floor. A woman stood by the bed. She was facing the wall. Noah's heart stuttered. Not again, he thought. But this was different. She wasn't waiting. She was listening. Her head turned slightly as Noah entered, just enough for him to see her profile. Her eyes were open, wide, alert. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I know," Noah said. Her gaze flicked past him toward the living room. "Neither should he," she said. Noah glanced back. The man on the couch hadn't moved. "He's already part of it," Noah said. The woman shook her head. "No, he's the reason." The pressure flickered at the edges of Noah's awareness, like a warning light trying to turn on. "What do you mean?" he asked. She stepped closer, her movements careful, as if the air itself might react if she moved too quickly. "I heard him," she said, "for weeks, standing outside my door, breathing, not knocking, just there." Noah felt the familiar compression begin to return. "He never came inside," she continued, "but I knew if I opened the door, something would change." The pressure tightened. Noah raised a hand, instinctively. "Don't," he said. The woman's eyes flicked to his hand. "You feel it too," she said. Not a question. Noah nodded. "It wants something finished," he said. "Something that never was." Her expression hardened. "Then why is it here now?" Noah didn't answer, because the truth was forming in him, heavy and unavoidable. The thing born from Caleb Hart's death had learned. It no longer needed accidents. It needed participation. The woman stepped back. "You brought it with you." Noah felt the accusation land cleanly. "Yes," he said. The room seemed to contract around the word. In the living room, the television static grew louder. The man on the couch spoke again. "It's time," he said. Noah turned. The man was standing now, facing them. His eyes were clear, focused, almost gentle. "No," the woman said sharply. "It's not." The man tilted his head. "It always is." The pressure surged. Noah staggered, gripping the doorframe. The building's logic pressed into him, not cruel, not angry, efficient. One incomplete death had created an imbalance. Acknowledgement had stabilized it. Replacement would finalize it. The woman grabbed Noah's arm. "Don't let it decide." Noah looked at her, then at the man, then inward, to the space where the pressure had lived. "It already has," he said. The man took a step forward. The pressure vanished. Relief flooded Noah again, stronger than before, clearer. The sensation was intoxicating. This was how it worked. This was how it convinced. Noah understood now why no one had stopped it before, why Carter had warned him away from questions, why the records had been erased instead of corrected, because fighting the thing required enduring the pressure, and giving in meant peace. The woman released Noah's arm. She looked at him with something like pity. "You're not special," she said. "You're just next." Noah smiled weakly. "I know." The man reached the doorway. Behind him, the hallway lights flickered in sequence, a path. Noah felt the pull, subtle but precise. This wasn't murder, this was succession. The woman backed toward the window. "No," she said, "I won't." The pressure surged again, violent this time. Noah cried out, dropping to one knee. The building reacted to resistance. The man turned his gaze to the woman. "Don't make it harder," he said softly. She shook her head, tears welling. "You don't have to do this." The man's expression didn't change. "I already did," he said. He stepped aside. The pressure released entirely. Noah gasped, air rushing into his lungs. In that moment of relief, clarity snapped into place. This wasn't about the man. It wasn't even about the woman. It was about Noah. He was the variable, the witness, the one who remembered. Caleb Hart's name had eased the pressure because it had completed recognition. Now, the thing required confirmation. A living acknowledgement, a choice. Noah stood. The woman's eyes widened. Noah, he didn't know how she knew his name. Maybe she didn't. Maybe the building did. "I'm sorry," he said. He stepped forward into the hallway. The light steadied. The pressure did not return. Behind him, the apartment fell silent. No shouting, no struggle, just the soft hum of a system completing a cycle. Noah walked until he reached the stairwell. At the landing, the painted-over wall waited. The outline beneath the paint was clearer now. Not just letters, a shape, a boundary. Noah placed his hand against it. "This is how it stays stable," he said. "Isn't it?" The wall did not respond, but the building did. Something shifted, deep and structural. Noah felt it settle. Behind him, footsteps approached, measured, unhurried. The man emerged from the hallway. He stopped a few feet away. "You can go now," he said. Noah turned. "Can I?" he asked. The man considered this. Then he nodded. "For now." Noah walked past him, up the stairs, back toward the lobby. As he moved farther from the landing, the pressure began to return. Light at first, manageable, a reminder. Noah understood the final truth then. The thing born from Caleb Hart's death didn't need to kill often. It only needed someone willing to remember, and someone willing to choose. Noah reached the lobby and sat behind the desk, his hands steady. The monitors showed empty hallways, normal, calm. No alarms tripped, but deep in his chest the pressure waited. Patient, because now it knew his name. Noah stayed at the desk until morning, not because he was required to, because leaving felt like abandoning something unfinished. The pressure in his chest had settled into a constant presence. No longer sharp, no longer overwhelming. It was like background noise, a hum beneath his thoughts. As long as he didn't focus on it, it stayed manageable. That felt deliberate. At 6:12 a.m., Carter Hayes walked into the lobby. He stopped when he saw Noah. "You're still here," Carter said. Noah looked up. "Yeah." Carter studied him for a moment. His eyes lingered too long, as if he were checking for signs of damage that didn't show on the surface. "You file that report?" Carter asked. "No," Noah said. Carter nodded once. "Good." The word landed heavier than Noah expected. Carter leaned against the counter, lowering his voice. "Did it calm down?" Noah didn't answer immediately. That told Carter enough. "I didn't know," Carter said quietly. "Not at first. When it happened, I thought it was just an accident they wanted buried." The pressure stirred faintly. "You knew someone died," Noah said. "Yes." "You knew the unit existed." "Yes." "You knew it didn't stop there." Carter hesitated. "Not right away." Noah watched him carefully. "How long?" Carter rubbed his face. "Long enough." The lobby lights flickered once, then steadied. Noah felt the pressure ease a fraction. "You helped it," Noah said. Carter didn't deny it. "I kept things consistent." The word echoed unpleasantly. "How many?" Noah asked. Carter closed his eyes. "Enough to know I wasn't stopping anything, just delaying it." The pressure tightened, just slightly. Noah felt the reaction immediately. "It doesn't like when you quantify it," he said. Carter's eyes opened. Fear flashed across his face before he smoothed it away. "You feel it," Carter said, "all the time." "Yes, then you understand why people don't fight it." Noah nodded. He did understand. The pressure wasn't pain, it wasn't cruelty, it was a demand for order. "And now it's yours," Carter said. Noah met his gaze. "It already was." Carter straightened. "You don't have to stay." Noah almost laughed. "That's not how this works," he said. Carter hesitated, then nodded. No, I suppose it isn't. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. Noah waited. Don't try to destroy it, Carter said. People have. The pressure surged briefly, like a warning. What happened? Noah asked. Carter's voice was flat. They died first. Carter left. The sun rose slowly through the lobby windows, painting the floor in pale gold. Tenants passed through on their way to work, nodding politely at Noah, unaware of how close they moved to something that existed just beneath the surface of their routine. By mid-morning, the pressure had grown heavier. Not urgent, restless. Noah recognized the sensation now. It wasn't hunger, it was imbalance. He stood and walked toward the B wing. This time, he didn't carry a flashlight. He didn't need one. The stairwell door opened easily. At the landing, the painted-over wall looked different, not changed, revealed. The outline beneath the paint was sharper now, the edges defined by stress fractures in the concrete. The shape wasn't a unit number anymore. It was a boundary. Noah pressed his palm against it. The pressure flared, then steadied. I can't keep doing this, he said. The building did not respond, but something else did. Footsteps echoed above him. Someone was coming down the stairs. Noah turned. A woman stood a few steps up, her hand gripping the railing. Not the woman from the apartment. This one was younger, early 30s, dark circles under her eyes. I knew I'd find someone here, she said. Noah didn't move. You shouldn't be. She laughed softly. That's what he said too. The pressure shifted, attentive. You feel it, Noah said. She nodded, like something pushing from the inside. She took another step down. I thought I was losing my mind, she continued, until I started hearing about the others. The others? Noah asked. She stopped. You don't know? The pressure tightened. Noah shook his head. They don't all happen here, she said. Some are nearby, different buildings, same pattern. Noah's stomach dropped. That's not possible, he said. She met his eyes. It is if it's not tied to the building anymore. The pressure surged violently, knocking the breath from his lungs. Noah staggered back. That's not true, he gasped. The woman didn't move. It followed you, didn't it? Noah's silence answered for him. Her expression hardened. Then you're the problem. The pressure spiked again, sharp and punishing. Noah dropped to one knee, pain lancing through his chest for the first time since this began. Stop, he whispered. The pressure eased slightly. The woman watched, fascinated and afraid. It listens to you, she said. Noah struggled to his feet. It reacts, he said. That's different. She shook her head. You're still feeding it. The truth hit him with nauseating clarity. Every acknowledgement, every choice, every attempt to manage the pressure. It wasn't stabilizing the thing, it was teaching it. Noah looked at the painted wall, then at the woman, then inward to the constant weight he'd accepted as inevitable. What happens if I don't choose, he asked. The pressure tightened. The woman answered instead, It chooses for you. Noah closed his eyes. For the first time since saying Caleb Hart's name, he didn't seek relief. He leaned into the pressure. It was unbearable. His vision blurred, his knees shook, his heart hammered wildly in his chest. But the building did not collapse. The stairwell did not respond. The pressure didn't escalate. It hesitated. Confusion radiated through him, unfamiliar and unstable. Noah opened his eyes. The painted wall vibrated faintly, hairline cracks spreading outward like a stress fracture. The woman stared. What are you doing? Breaking the pattern, Noah said through clenched teeth. The pressure surged again, then faltered. For the first time, it felt uncertain. Noah screamed as the weight pressed inward, every instinct in his body begging him to give in, to say a name, to finish something. He didn't. Seconds stretched. The cracks widened. A sound echoed through the stairwell. Not a voice, not a scream, a structural groan. Then abruptly, the pressure vanished. Noah collapsed against the wall, gasping. The woman grabbed his arm, steadying him. What did you do? She whispered. Noah shook his head. I don't know. The painted wall looked unchanged at a glance, but something beneath it had shifted. Something fundamental. The pressure did not return. Noah stood slowly. The relief did not come, and for the first time, that felt right. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was vacant. Noah stood in the stairwell, his back against the concrete wall, breathing hard. The absence where the pressure had lived felt like a missing limb, phantom sensations flickering where weight used to be. His body didn't trust it. The woman was still holding his arm. Say something, she said. Noah shook his head slowly. If I do, it might listen. They waited. Nothing happened. No alarms, no shifting air, no subtle correction pressing them back into place. The stairwell felt inert, ordinary. The cracks in the painted wall remained thin and branching, like veins that no longer carried blood. Noah straightened. We need to leave. They climbed the stairs together. With each step upward, Noah expected the pressure to snap back into him, angry and precise. It didn't. At the lobby, morning had fully arrived. Sunlight spilled across the floor and the building looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, an aging apartment complex with scuffed tiles and tired furniture. Normal. Carter Hayes stood by the front doors. He looked smaller than Noah remembered. You felt it stop, Carter said. Noah nodded. Yes. Carter's eyes darted to the stairwell entrance. That's not possible. It hesitated, Noah said. That was enough. Carter laughed softly. You think it's gone. I think it broke its rhythm. Carter shook his head. That thing doesn't break. It learns, Noah said. Or it did. The woman stepped forward. It followed him, she said. Outside this building. Carter went pale. That's not how, he began, then stopped. No, of course it is. Noah watched the realization spread across Carter's face, the weight of every delayed report and erased record settling at once. You helped it grow, Noah said. Not accusing, just stating. Carter swallowed. I thought I was containing it. You were feeding it structure. Carter looked toward the doors. Then it's not over. Noah considered this. No, he said, but it's different now. They left the building together. Outside, the city moved with indifferent precision. Cars passed, people talked, a bus sighed at the curb. Noah waited for the pressure to return. It didn't, but something else had taken its place. Awareness. Days passed. Noah quit his job. He didn't give notice. Carter didn't ask him to. They both understood that staying would only rebuild the pattern. The woman, her name was Elise, kept in touch. She had found others, not victims, witnesses. People who had felt the pressure resisted it, survived. There weren't many. They met quietly, irregularly, never in the same place twice. They didn't share stories in detail. Details gave shape, and shape invited attention. What Noah learned instead was this. The thing born from Caleb Hart's death had not been singular. It had been specific. It had grown because its logic was clean. One unfinished death, one correction at a time, order through replacement. Breaking that rhythm hadn't destroyed it. It had confused it. Confusion didn't end a system. It forced it to adapt. Weeks later, Noah felt it again. Not pressure, a question. He was standing at a crosswalk waiting for the light to change. A man stood beside him, staring straight ahead. Noah didn't look at him at first. He didn't need to. The sensation was faint but unmistakable, an awareness reaching outward, testing. Noah held still. He didn't speak. He didn't think the name. The sensation lingered, uncertain. Then it withdrew. The light changed. They crossed the street. No one died. That night, Noah wrote the name down, Caleb Hart. He didn't speak it. He didn't erase it. He placed the paper in a box with others, names, dates, fragments of accidents that had been smoothed over rather than finished. He understood now what had truly created the thing. It wasn't the death, it was the refusal to hold it. Unacknowledged deaths didn't vanish. They waited. Months passed. Reports surfaced online, strange patterns, near misses, people feeling watched, and then nothing. Threads that went quiet without resolution. No mass deaths, no clean replacements, just instability. The system was still there, but it was fractured. One evening, Elise called Noah. It tried to push, she said. Hard. Noah closed his eyes. Did you let it? No. Good. They stayed silent together for a moment. What if it finds a new rhythm, she asked. It will, Noah said, eventually. And then, Noah looked at the box of names. Then someone will feel it, he said, and they'll have to decide. The truth settled in him without fear. The thing born when Caleb Hart died wasn't evil. It was procedural, and procedures could be interrupted, but only by people willing to carry the weight without relief. Noah stepped out onto his balcony and looked down at the street below. People moved through the city, unaware of the systems beneath their feet, some human, some not. He felt no pressure, only readiness, because now, when something unfinished tried to complete itself, it would have to reckon with memory, with witnesses, with refusal. And that, Noah understood, was the only way the world ever changed. Not by destroying what should never have existed, but by standing where it expected relief and offering none.